Welcome, everybody, to Healthspan Compass podcast from the Healthspan Action Coalition. My name is Melissa King, and I'm a co-founder here at what we call the HSAC. I serve as Chief Operating Officer. I'm pleased to be here today with my co-host and really the lead host of this podcast, Junaid Mian, and you'll get to know him throughout this podcast if you haven't already in the prior episodes. And we will be talking today with two pioneering companies that are members of the Healthspan Action Coalition and doing remarkable work on behalf of patients everywhere and really pushing the envelope in the health span and longevity space. And I'm very excited for us all to hear from them and for them to be getting to know each other today as we have this discussion. We have Yuta Lee with us, who is founder and CEO of Accelerated Biosciences. And we have Howard Leonhardt, executive chairman and CEO at Leonhardt Ventures, and also of Lionheart Health. And with that, I will turn it over to Junaid to get us started on what I think will be an exciting conversation.
Thanks, Melissa. Yeah, Junaid Mian here. I'm a pharmacist, entrepreneur, and investor. Currently, I'm a venture partner at 1435 Capital, based out of Princeton, New Jersey, where I head the BioFrontiers Fund, where we're tackling age-related diseases through regenerative medicine, gene therapy, and immunotherapy. And so before we begin today's fantastic podcast, I want to give the audience two questions that I want you to keep in your mind, which we're going to answer by talking to Howard and Yuta. And so the first one is, how do Howard and Yuta's approaches differ from what's currently available? And number two, how many healthy years could their technologies add to our lives?
Sure. Thank you, Junaid. So let's start with Howard. Recently learned that you are one of the X Prize Healthspan 40 semifinalists, which is a huge accomplishment. And I think everybody needs to know about the work that you've been doing. So, to start out with, could you explain your bioelectrical technology? And then also, I'm giving you a compound question, Klotho, something I know you're focused on and just had a conference about down in Irvine. Explain those two concepts to us as if we were 12 years old.
Thank you for the opportunity and glad to be here. Hi, everybody. We were very honored to be selected as a top 40 semifinalists in the X Prize Healthspan competition, a $101 million prize competition. 600 organizations entered the competition, and we were ahead of 560 to make it to the final 40. We're now enrolling to 45 patients in a pilot feasibility study, and we will turn in our results next spring with attempting to make it to the final 10. The grading criteria is improvements of brain health, muscle health, and immune health, all with a direction of increasing health span 20 years or reversing age 20 years, depending on how you look at it. And it takes a while to describe our protocol, but the centerpiece of it is our patented Bod Stim suit. You exercise with that suit, and it causes your muscles and your kidney to excrete more Klotho and follistatin than you would normally secrete in normal exercise. If you're low in circulating Klotho, you're aging more rapidly than you should. And over 4,318 published papers clearly establish that link. It's primarily produced again in your kidney and your muscle. It secretes out, and it staves off aging. And as it drops, particularly if it drops below 600 pgml, you're in a danger zone. And people that are in that low danger zone have close to 40% chance that they don't even make it to their expected median death age, which for most Caucasians of European descent like myself is 82 for a male. If I'm low in Klotho, I'm not going to, 40% chance I don't even make it to 82. And perhaps even worse than that, about 20 years before passing away early, you start showing up with all the aging-related elements: memory loss, cognitive function loss, skin wrinkles, hair loss, sexual health loss, joint pain. Everything that we know happens with aging is going to happen earlier in your life if you're low in Klotho. And we have a very important protocol for elevating your Klotho levels. Now, as Melissa knows, we started with stem cells, and we have Klotho, a patent on Klotho expressing stem cells suspended in a nutrient hydrogel. Our first work was in limb salvage and heart regeneration, and we've adapted that now to health span and longevity. And it'll take a while to explain it. Maybe later in the discussion I can give more details on that. But our 30 of our patients will be treated with non-invasive treatments in the United States. 15 of them will go to one of our licensed OUS clinics, and they will get Klotho expressing stem cells and Klotho gene injections.
And you've already gone into this a little bit, but in a nutshell, what age-related problem does this solve that drugs cannot solve? Maybe explain why there isn't a drug that can do what your protocol does.
Well, again, low Klotho is associated with every single aspect of aging, and including cancer. If you're low in Klotho, dramatically higher risk of many types of cancers. Of course, the data is gathering, and anything I say, has to be checked with, well-designed, statistically significant clinical trials need to be completed. It's very clear the reverse, that if you're low in Klotho, it's bad. 4,318 papers clearly established that. Every 4% loss of Klotho is a loss of year of health span, a loss of year of healthy living, and that's clearly established in hundreds of thousands of patients. Now, what we don't know is if you go the opposite direction, if you increase Klotho by 4%, let's say our Bod Stim patients are averaging about 43%. We don't know yet if that actually increases health span 10 years. We're trying to prove that. We have all kinds of biomarkers. We can tell you the people that are with our Bod Stim suit for 6 months, using it 2 times a week for an hour, they have better cognition in their testing, a better memory, more muscle tone, more grip strength, higher immune strength, and all of their biomarkers related to aging. 2 of my friends from high school, they got a Bod Stim suit up in Minneapolis, and I was delighted that they're 63 like me, and they're clocking in biologically at age 32 right now. And more important than that, than some blood marker, their sexual life at 63 has picked up. They're a happy couple. The cognition has gotten better, and memory, and their joints don't hurt. They jog around the lakes up in Minneapolis, and it used to be that their knees hurt like heck, and now they don't hurt anymore. So I could go on and on, Melissa, but basically every single ailment related to aging is related to Klotho. And beyond that, if you're low in Klotho, higher chance to be depressed. If you're low in Klotho, 10x higher chance to be addicted to something, particularly alcohol.
Wow. So clearly, hearing all of that, this is something that everybody should at least consider doing for themselves, everybody with the resources that is. So, what we'd love to hear about is when it sounds like right now we could actually use this technology or this protocol. And also, if you can share with us, what is the cost of it? What does that look like?
So the Bod Stim suit is FDA cleared for augmenting the health benefits of exercise and building more muscle more quickly. It is not cleared for treating any disease. It's not cleared for reversing age. It's not cleared for extending health span 20 years. Now, in multiple animal studies, animals that were treated with Klotho supplementation lived 30% longer than normal animals, and animals where Klotho was blocked died 80% younger than normal animals, and on the way to dying suffered of everything. But in humans, we need to do these studies, and we need to do them well with statistical significance, and it's a little too early to tell. But bodstim.com, you can order the suits. The Slim Plus version sells for $2,495. We have financing, so you put $300 down and pay a little bit each month until you pay it off, and it will last 20 years. It doesn't wear out. And we also have other Klotho supplementation products. So in our protocol, people eat a Klotho favoring diet. We deliver meals for $4 to $12 to their home in partnership with Metabolic Meals. And we deliver supplements, not only for Klotho, but for muscle health, immune health, and brain health, which are the criteria of the X Prize. And all of that can be found on lionhearthealthstim.com. The meals are $4 to $12, and a bottle of the supplements that lasts a month costs about $230. And we also develop customized supplements. So we take a saliva sample, and we design supplements just for you based on what your blood and your DNA tells us.
Excellent. Thank you for all of that. And just one more brief question. What do you think convinced the judges for X Prize Healthspan that you had to be included in that group of 40 semifinalists? I could come up with it, but I just would love to hear your thoughts on what might have been their process for selecting you and
I
your
would like
work.
to believe, and they gave us feedback that it was careful science and well documented science. So we started in the laboratory taking muscle tissue and stimulating and showing the protein expressions. Then we went to small animals, then we went to large animals, then we went to humans. So we turned into the committee, unlike many of the other 600 competitors, we turned in finished clinical trial results on Bod Stim, on OrthoStim, on ErectiStim, on brain band treatment of depression with increasing Klotho and BDNF in people's brains. And again, the three categories were brain health, muscle health, and immune health, three different expert judging panels that are non-biased. And we scored very high on brain health because we had preclinical and clinical data showing that we improved brain health. And we scored the highest on muscle health because we had completed multiple clinical trials, both in the US and outside of the US, showing improvement of grip strength, 6-minute walk, muscle mass, muscle tone. We scored the lowest in immune health improvement. So now, if we're going to make it from 40 to 10, we have to step up our immune health game, so to speak.
Got it. And I would have expected nothing less being familiar with your stem cell work and having seen your lab and I just it's exciting that you're in the position that you're in now and that your work is really on the precipice of getting out there to the whole world. So thank you for that. Back over to you, Junaid.
Absolutely fascinating. You know what? I'm gonna have to look into that skin tight Bod Stim suit.
Thank you.
Um, can I wear like a suit jacket over it or something like that?
Yeah, it's a neoprene suit. I'm a surfer. It's the same suit we use to surf in, and we just put electrodes inside, and it needs to be wet to communicate through your skin to the muscles, and we have electrodes above and below the kidneys, and we're really trying to establish actually if most of the Klotho that we increase, and we've had patients that have increased 230%. And again, every 4% increase we're trying to prove is another year of health span. So even just 8% increase. And by the way, the natural way to increase this is exercise. But if you are an exercise fanatic, go to the gym, jog, whatever your choice is, you're likely only going to increase your circulating Klotho about 3 to 6%. Still great because 8% would be 2 years of extra healthy life. But we're hitting consistently 43% in normal people. In people that are couch potatoes that have declined, we've hit as high as 230% increase. And but again, the FDA has cleared it for augmenting the health benefits of exercise and building more muscle more quickly. Any other claims, we have to be careful and conduct well-designed clinical trials before we can change the labeling.
Fantastic. All right, so I'm gonna maximum overdrive that Klotho.
Thank you.
All right, all right. So, all right, so let me move on to Utah here. So Utah, I got four questions for you as well. So number one, how does regenerative medicine intersect with health span and longevity? What is the role there between what you're doing and health span and longevity?
First of all, thank you for inviting me. I'm happy to be here. And I probably should explain a little bit about what we're doing, right? So my company, Accelerated Biosciences, we've been working on the human trophoblast stem cells since about 2005. And these are the earliest stem cells that you could possibly find without any ethical issues. And where we get them is from a procedure called a salpingectomy for tubal ectopic pregnancy. And my father actually discovered this stem cell platform. He's an MD PhD. He got his MD from Tohoku University in Sendai, Japan. And he got his PhD from St. Bart's, the University of London. And when he was performing a salpingectomy procedure to take out a tubal ectopic pregnancy, he took this mass out and was thinking to himself, "There's got to be amazing stem cells in here. Why are we throwing it away?" Now, let me explain what a tubal ectopic pregnancy, just in case nobody's heard of this. So, what happens is an embryo travels down a fallopian tube, and sometimes it gets stuck. Actually, 2% of all pregnancies, it gets stuck. So, 2 out of every 100 babies, this will happen. And when it gets stuck, it'll sit there and grow until it bursts the fallopian tube. And if it bursts the tube, the mother may die of internal bleeding. It's actually the highest cause of death in first trimester pregnancies. So what typically happens is a woman will feel sharp pain in her abdomen and go, whoa, what's going on here? Go to the ER, get scanned. The doctor will go, oh my gosh, you actually have a tubal ectopic. We have to take it out right away. Otherwise, it's dangerous for your life. So they schedule an emergency salpingectomy where they go in and they use a scope to remove the mass. And once they remove the mass, all they have to do is give it to the pathologist to double check. Yep, they can throw it away. The reason why they can throw it away is because under normal circumstances in a pregnancy, the embryo needs to travel down the fallopian tube and get to the mother's uterus and implant itself by day 7 or day 8. You actually don't discover an ectopic until 4 to 8 weeks because that's how long it takes to grow and stretch out the tube until it bursts, right? And so there are many weeks in between where that embryo has no connection to the mother, no nutrients coming to it. So all OB/GYNs understand the fetus already to be non-viable. And that's why when they take it out in an ectopic pregnancy or a salpingectomy procedure, all they have to do is get a pathologist to check it, and they can throw it away. What my father ended up doing was when he took the mass out, he was thinking there must be amazing stem cells in here, but to avoid all the ethical issues of touching the fetus, he scrapes off the preplacental tissue on the outside of the embryo called chorionic villi, hands the rest of the mass back to the pathologist who checks it and throws it away. And because of that fact, now we have the earliest stem cells. And I think the only thing that we need to note here is that in stem cells or in cell therapy, for your stem cell source, the earlier you go, the more biologically active the cells tend to be. Okay. And our cells are literally the earliest that you can find without ethical issues. There are cells that you can find earlier. They're called human embryonic stem cells, but they're usually taken from leftover embryos of an IVF clinic, in vitro fertilization process. So for couples who can't get pregnant. And there are a lot of embryos left over frozen. And so you can actually take that and do research with it or try to create a therapy around it. But, when you take an embryo from that stage, then you're destroying a potential life. So it creates a lot of ethical issues. So the government actually cannot use that. So because of this, we now have the earliest, and we've been working with the National Institute on Aging for the last 2.5 years, using the exosomes to try and apply to senescent cells. And in the last 1.5 years, we have data in vitro and vivo that we can systemically downregulate all inflammation using the exosomes coming from the earliest cells that you can possibly find. Right. So, to answer your question properly, I think that the bridge between cell therapy and longevity has to come from the fact that these stem cells is really the beginning of life, right? And the beginning of regeneration in our bodies. And so we're literally harnessing the messages or the power of that cell to try and help fix our bodies or do something to enhance it. So I believe that that's really the intersection between stem cells or cell therapy and longevity.
Interesting. So we're getting down to the root cause instead of putting Band-Aids. We're actually...
Exactly.
Okay.
Absolutely right.
All right. So how are you, I don't know, how are you using AI to know how these cells are, when you finally put these in patients? Are you using AI to have an idea as to how it's going to play out? Like theoretically, we're talking about these cells going into patients and regenerating and so forth.
That's right.
How do you know that's going to play out? Is AI playing a role in helping you to know that is what's probably going to happen?
I think, there's, as over the last, I would say 5 to 10 years, I think sequencing costs have come down so much, which is incredible for scientists and also for clinicians as well, is now we can sequence a lot of things. And so even with our stem cells, we've done all the omics, the proteomics, the transcriptomics, and we're mapping out a lot of different proteins and how they interact with each other. And so as we go forward into the clinic, we're trying to use AI to try and link up what's actively, reducing inflammation in vivo. And so that's probably how we're going to apply our AI. But it's still very early days, I think, because from a diagnostic side, we still have a large degree of difficulty trying to read things that are very, very small, right? So anything less than, say, 30 nanometers, wow, it gets pretty hard to identify. And also, these extracellular vesicles come in lipid bilayers. So, they're like bubbles that cells excrete to communicate with each other, right? And they come in different sizes, right? And so when you try to sort them by size, you can get them by size, but then you don't know what messages are inside each bubble, right? These are called extracellular vesicles, and the smaller ones are called exosomes. And so we kind of are trying to harness these early messages from the earliest cells to figure out what's active in them. So that's kind of our direction with AI.
Very interesting. So, I'm really excited by what you're working on. I feel like
Yep.
anything is possible. We can literally go after anything we want to, right?
Right.
But we can't do that, right? So
That's right.
what are you going to be targeting first? Like, what is your first
Right.
target so that we can say, hey, this pretty much works, and now let's do everything. So where's
That's
the
right.
beginning point for you?
That's a great question. So my beginning point was, based on the work with the National Institute on Aging, right? So that's subpart of the NIH based in Baltimore. And all they're doing is trying to figure out how to deal with senescent cells, or all the hallmarks of aging, where senescent cells is one of the main ones. And these senescent cells, just described to the audience here, are cells that you accumulate in your body as you get older. They stop dividing, but they refuse to die. They refuse to apoptose, right? And so they're sitting around putting out these inflammatory messages, right? Saying, hey, be old like us. Don't worry about it. And that's really the cause of inflammation. And the inflammation is now linked to a lot of aging diseases that we have today, right? So the idea there is, well, if we can get rid of these senescent cells, or at least control the inflammation, we can probably either reduce or get rid of all these aging diseases that we have today, right? And so that's the hope. And that was the reason why the NIA researcher approached me in the first place. He said, Utah, have you ever heard of these studies done at Stanford called heterochronic parabiosis? And at the time, I was like, no, never heard of it. And so, just so everybody here knows, they stitched two mice together, right? So it would have one circulatory blood system, one old mouse and one young mouse. And they discovered, just by doing that, the old mouse is biologically getting younger and the young mouse is biologically getting older. They're like, whoa, what's going on here? Right? And so, based on this idea, right, the researcher was thinking, hey, if you can rejuvenate an old mouse just by function of the secretome, the proteins coming off the blood of the young mouse, I wonder what would happen if you take the earliest stem cells, but it has to be without ethical issues, otherwise the NIH can't work with it. Take the secretome and apply it directly to senescent cells. So that's the data that we have today, right? And we discovered that we can systemically downregulate all inflammation just by using the secretome, or the proteins coming off of our cells. And the data is being published now. It's in peer review with Aging Cell. So hopefully it'll be published in the next 3 to 6 months. But based on this data, two doctors from a very large hospital system, and I can't mention it yet because we're in negotiations with them right now, approached me and said, we have 800 plus patients with chronic fatigue syndrome that we don't know what to do with. And we believe that if your exosomes can systemically downregulate inflammation, we think this will work. So we're actually putting together our first program to the FDA for phase 1 to use our exosomes to apply to chronic fatigue syndrome. So that's our first indication. But the exciting thing about that is, Junaid, is that, chronic fatigue syndrome and a lot of other what we call post-viral infection, chronic inflammation diseases have a lot of same symptoms with other indications like long COVID, like fibromyalgia, or even POTS. A lot of diseases have the same symptoms. So we believe that if we just use inflammation as the main go-to or as the main target, then after phase one, we'd be able to expand out and use it across the board with all of these diseases. So that's the
Which
exciting
is
part.
it's very exciting because that's a lot of people, and it's also
Yes,
a lot of people that have little to no hope,
absolutely. Yeah.
which
And that's
is
why they approached me. They're like, we saw your data, we love it, let's go do this. I'm like, let's go.
amazing.
Yeah, very exciting stuff.
I want
Senescent
to
cells.
comment. There's so many things with Dr. Lee's presentation that I agree with. And
Yeah,
the earlier sourcing of the cells, they are more biologically active and have a better chance to provide therapeutic benefit. Inflammation is
yeah,
chronic inflammation, systemic inflammation is an underlying cause of many things that go wrong in the body, and this
right.
could be a really good way to fight it. I do want to throw in there that one of the properties of Klotho is to fight back against both oxidative stress and
Oh,
inflammation.
yeah.
Uh,
Yep.
and there's a place for all these therapies.
Absolutely. But
Junaid,
Klotho is definitely
Yeah.
extremely exciting. That's something that we're looking into as well. So.
I was going to say Junaid and I are going to be looking into both, I think.
Yeah, I think so. I think so. If you're talking about senescent cells, I know a lot of senescent people.
Right.
Just don't go away. Just all this negativity just never go away.
That's right.
All right,
That's
so
right.
all right, so here's the last question for you, Utah. So
Yeah.
this therapy that you're talking about for chronic
Yes.
fatigue syndrome,
Right.
when do you, and let's be optimistic here, right?
Yep.
And then you can be realistic. When do you think it's going to hit the market?
Wow, that's a really wonderful question, and I'm very, very optimistic about this for a couple of reasons. I think that if under current circumstances, if we had to take it all the way through the FDA, and I'm sure Howard is facing the same gut-wrenching stomach aches that I do, it probably takes 7 years or more. But I believe, you guys have probably heard there are a lot of states out there that are really pushing on the right to try. So we're talking about Florida, New Hampshire, Montana, even Utah. I think Texas also has some stuff going on down there. But if we're hoping that when we get it through phase one and through first safety data from phase one, we'll be able to use that then for a lot of patients that really need it in some of these states. And so that would bring a lot more relevant human data into the system to hopefully push the FDA to let this thing through a lot earlier. So that's my hope.
And I just want to point out that I appreciate your thinking through the potential pathways to get it to patients sooner. And I know that policy can take a while as well, but the
Right.
Healthspan Action Coalition is actually working with
Yes.
the Catalyst Group on the Thrive Act, a bill that, if passed, would not just accelerate, but also create a specialized pathway for health span longevity focused products to get them through
Right.
the FDA faster. So hopefully, one way or another, we can start seeing some of these products or programs get to people sooner. It's
Right.
so difficult with health span and with longevity because you can't do a 90-year clinical trial, right? And
That's right.
and even if you could, we don't want you to have to do a 90-year clinical trial. So let's see if we can get some interim steps in place.
We
So
can't wait that long.
yeah, exactly. We definitely
Right.
can't.
Yeah.
Melissa, you brought up the work of the Healthspan Action Coalition, which you helped lead with Bernie. And I want to plug that in our conversation, the work that you are doing is so important, particularly in one area, the area of having companies like Dr. Lee's and ours be able to get paid while we do phase two clinical trials. Right now, uh, if you have a non-innovative product, you can get
Yeah.
reimbursed during clinical trials. But if you have an innovative breakthrough product, you can't get reimbursed. I've spoke to Bram Zuckerman at the FDA about this, and excuse the language, but they kind of have it ass backwards as far as promoting innovation. And if we are able to get paid, everybody else in that room is getting paid, the doctors, the nurses, the hospital, and we're the only ones, the purple, bringing the innovation that for whatever reason we don't get paid. You mentioned that your Healthspan Action Coalition believes in this as well, and you're trying to change that policy. That alone would make a major difference so that instead of having to chase VCs and spend all the time raising our capital and not doing the real work, we can
Yep.
actually keep our businesses alive while we do the clinical trials. Now, we're not saying to put safety aside. You still have to prove to the FDA that you've established that this is safe to use in humans. They're giving you permission to do it already because we are doing the studies. We just don't get paid. And it's enormous difference. Clinical trial cost us, 15 to $20 million. And if we are able to get paid. And everybody's playing this game that you try to apply and say, oh, it's not innovative, so give us the reimbursement. And sometimes you get away with that, and that's tremendously good. But why make us play that game? Why make us on the border of being dishonest? Just like we need to change the law. And Bram Zuckerman at the FDA, if he's watching this, he told me he agrees with that and he would endorse it.
Great. Well, thanks for that. Totally agree, as you know, and we should be rewarding innovation. We've seen that happen at the federal level, certainly at the state level in California, and we've seen it be very successful, both to drive science forward, but also to drive competitiveness for your state or your country or your field. So absolutely, we are of the same mind on this, Howard. Thank you for that. This group could talk for hours and really enjoy it, but I think we should move to some generalized questions that we'd love to get thoughts from each of you on as we head toward our close. And so I'll start by asking, and the two of you are out there a lot in this field. You're doing incredible work. You're leading wonderful companies. You also speak at events, you put on events. So, from your observation, do you think this industry right now, the longevity health span industry, is full of legitimate scientists like yourselves and the people that you work with? Or is it more full of what we would think of as snake oil salespeople? What's your temperature on the field right now? Either one of you can start.
Do you mind if I go first, Howard? I actually think, with any new industry, you're going to have a lot of a spectrum of all of it, right? You can get a lot of snake oil people. You're going to get a lot of scientists coming in, but I think that especially for longevity, um, it's more science is coming to the forefront, and I'm very excited about that. So you have real hardcore scientists from Harvard, Stanford, coming into the field and really supporting some of the ideas behind how to expand or extend our lifespan, or longevity, and extend our health span. So that's very exciting. And, some of the biggest meetings that you can go to, like ARDD, that's Aging, Disease, and Drug Discovery in Copenhagen, which is like the Lollapalooza of all aging conferences, really do bring a lot of wonderful scientists, and you get to hear a lot of them. So I think it's a slow process, but it's really accelerating now. It's legitimizing a lot of the longevity science. And of course, a lot of the great work at the Buck Institute up in Marin County. This all coming together, and I'm very excited about that. I just want to mention one thing about this, though. You know, I go to a lot of different conferences, and I don't know if you feel the same way, Howard, but like in all of the conferences, you kind of feel like the scientists they all have their knives out ready to gut each other, right? It's kind of a strange competitive environment. But only in longevity, you have this environment where everybody's quite supportive of each other. Because I really think the reason is because when one of us wins, everybody wins, right? And so it's not like, oh, I need to
Yes.
beat you. I need to be number one, the first guy to publish or something like that. I think it has less of that, but that's the part that's really, really positive for me. And that's why I love going to longevity conferences, because when you show up, everybody's friends. They're like, hey, good to see you. Right. So next time I see you at a conference, Howard, I'm going to give you a big hug. And you, Junaid and Melissa.
That is great. And that is absolutely how Bernie and I and the team at Healthspan Action Coalition feel. I'm so glad to hear you say that. rising tides float all boats.
That's right.
Grow the pie. Don't try and grab the biggest piece. Grow the pie.
That's right.
Yep. All right, Howard, what do you think?
And Utah, we just sponsored the Klotho conference, and some of the reporters that came to cover the conference, they said exactly that unlike other conferences, there seems to be a camaraderie that we're all in this together, and there's room for everybody. The good thing about our market of aging is that everybody, everybody in the entire
Yeah,
planet is a potential candidate. It's not a niche market.
that's
Uh,
right.
in the same line of thinking, it's maybe a different slant on it, Melissa, but I think it needs to be said. I lost my father last 2 years ago now at age 82 of heart failure and kidney failure. He was on 16 different drugs at the time.
Mm.
And I'm his son. I said, Dad, we could, take you to Mexico to one of our clinics. We could inject Klotho excision stem cells in your kidney and your heart. And he's a conservative guy, doesn't understand it. And he said, I trust my Dr. Maida here in Dallas, Texas, and I'm just going to stay the conservative course. He passed away on his couch at 82, his kidney failure. Uh, his son can't help but have a chip on my shoulder. And one person has a negative event with stem cells, and it makes the news. A few months ago, stem cell heart transplant patient in Turkey dies. And everybody hears about it as a negative thing on stem cells. My dad dies, didn't make any headlines. He's on 16 different drugs. I look it up. Some of the drugs he was on have 3 billion in revenues, and the data shows no improvement in mortality. And yet they sell
Wow.
and soak us all for $3 billion a year. Uh, Obviously, a little chip on my shoulder. I'm angry I lost my dad. I wanted him around longer. He was an advisor to me, a brilliant person, a kind person that we needed around for at least 10 more years, and he's not around anymore. But, we carry on the fight. But, my thought about snake oil, these swallow the chemicals drug people, they're the snake oil people, not us. The body's made of cells and should be repaired of cells. Now, of course, in longevity and health span, there are snake oil salesmen. There are undocumented therapies moving forward. And that's where companies like Dr. Lee's and ours, we're committed to good science. We have Dr. Miller, 250 peer-reviewed publications, 115 clinical trials, past president of the International Heart, Lung, and Blood Transplantation Society, 10 years chairman of cardiovascular medicine at the University of Minnesota. He wouldn't attach his name to any organization. He's our chief medical officer if we didn't do things right. Dr. Dipti Itchaporia, 2022 president of the American College of Cardiology, one of the 4 women in their entire history to be president. She would not attach her name. So when we have our clinical advisory board, it's always safety first. It's always well-documented science, and we want to lead the way that way.
And we so appreciate that. And we could do a whole episode at least on this. I mean, think about gene therapy and how the very sad situation with Jesse Gelsinger basically shut that field down for more than a decade. And
Hmm.
now the 4 of us know full well it is gene therapies that are saving lives from diseases that had confounded us for ages. So I'm very sorry to hear about you losing your dad, Howard, and I agree with you and appreciate what you said. And it actually is the perfect segue into something else I want to ask about, which is will the treatments that you two are working on and that others in the field are working on benefit only wealthy individuals, or can they benefit the broader society? And of course, Bernie and I are very interested in seeing that globally, which is an issue beyond just not just rich people, but would love to hear your thoughts on that. And either one of you can start.
How do you want to start this one first? You would like me to?
Go ahead, I just spoke.
Yeah, okay. Right. I think that there are two concepts there we really need to understand to see to reach that goal, right? Where everybody can use this. So basically democratizing a lot of these therapies, right? And so the first one is autologous versus allogeneic, right? And Junaid and I were just talking about this before the podcast. Autologous is just taking cells from your own body, engineering it outside, and then putting it back in, right? Allogeneic is taking a healthy donor cells, mass manufacturing it, and then that can be used for everybody. Now, the difference is with autologous, because it's from your own body, you don't have to deal with any immune rejection issues, right? Um, but you can't scale because it's literally every patient that comes in, they've got to go through the whole process, take the cell out, process it, put it back in. So this is what's happening with CAR T therapies, for example, right? With allogeneics, if you're able to find a healthy donor and characterize it, make sure it's completely safe, you can put it in everybody. You can mass manufacture it and then distribute it to almost everybody. Now, with that, you have to face immune rejection issues, but the cost comes down dramatically, right? And our cells are actually on the allogeneic side because we get our cells such an early state that they're senescing cells, so naturally senesce, so they're not immortal like cancer cells, right? But we're able to drive them out to 85 population doublings. And at that scale, if you can imagine the number 1 and 25 zeros behind it, that's e to the 25 cells. That's enough cells to grow 2 trillion human beings. Like you literally cannot buy enough, conditioned media to grow that many cells. And so scale is already solved. Also with our human trophoblast stem cells, because they are pre-placental in nature, they express HLA-G, right? And imagine this, an embryo is really a recombination of the father's gene and the mother's gene. So it's an alien thing relative to the mother. So how come this embryo can stay attached to the mother with our immune system going completely crazy, right? So it turns out the HLA-G from the placenta dampens down all of the mother's immune system so that the embryo can stay attached. Our cells have this. And so basically then we have an allogeneic cell source that has scale and immune privilege in one package. So we can grow as much as we want out of it. And we can use them as an allogeneic cell source to apply to any cell therapy that you'd like to take it into. That's the exciting part with us. So to answer your question, and the final part of this is because you have scale and because you have immune privilege, you've already addressed two of the biggest problems in starting stem cell sources, right? And when you have that kind of scale and you don't have to worry about the immune problem, you can really drop that price down to almost nothing. And that's the key. And so in any cell therapies now, if it's autologous, it costs too much. Just, $500,000, even gene therapies are insane. They're like $4.2 million for the most expensive one. But as we get into allogeneics and be able to scale this thing out, I think all these costs will come down. And that's what we're hoping to do.
And that is stunning if you think about it from a global perspective and wanting science and intellectual property that is developed in places like California in the UC system at Irvine, where Howard is, or at some of the institutions that you've mentioned and in your company. We want those to get to places where there aren't those institutions doing that science. Of course, in another conversation, we would want to have more science institutions in those areas. But since there aren't, we need to have some of this technology be made available globally. All right, Howard, your thoughts on this?
Well, we all have a goal to bring this to as many people as it can be brought to, and part of the work is the work that you're doing, Melissa. If it costs less regulatory costs that has to be recovered to get something to market, you can lower the price because you don't have to recover 30, 40, $100 million of regulatory costs. We know that there's not one silver bullet for aging. In our protocol, we have healthy eating, we have exercise, we have nature time, we have treatment of breathing and during sleep, and some of those things, eating healthy and exercise, don't necessarily have to cost a lot of money. We think what needs to happen is doctors explaining to patients and doctors having incentives. I saw that the healthcare system would probably change dramatically if physicians were compensated on the health of their patients, not just on treating them when they're already sick. Dr. Sanjay Borjraj, who's on our board of directors and is a co-physician at our clinic in Newport Beach, he was my cardiologist. And some years back, I had some chest pain. My wife said, go in and get it checked it out. He was the doctor I saw. He ended up quitting traditional medicine and moving to our side, to functional medicine and to fighting aging. He got called into the supervisor of the hospital's office, and they said, you're taking too much time with each patient. You need to put a stent in, get the patient out, put another stent in. And he said, well, I'm trying to coach them on a lifestyle so that they don't come back in. And he said, we don't get paid for that. If you don't start stepping it up and putting more stents in each day, we're going to fire you. Stop. It's not your job to worry about the health of the patient. It's your job to put a stent in. And he said, if that's my job, that's not what I signed up for. I'm out of here. See you later. I quit. I might have got the story off a little bit, but he can tell the story. But you get the idea. And he's, proud that he put his integrity of why he entered medicine is to help people's health, not to wait till people are in a heart attack at 3 a.m. and get called to put in a stent.
Yeah, thank you for that. And we met Sanjay through you. Absolutely love working with him. He's done some work on a podcast with us as well, and his organization is part of the Healthspan Action Coalition. And this is how it happens: you build a coalition to move forward some of the policy ideas and needs that we've been talking about here today. So thank you for that. Back over to you, Junaid.
Thanks, Melissa. It's been very enlightening conversations here. So, you know, in this world that we live in, there is a lot of noise, right? We're always trying to listen for the signal, right? But this is just so much banter and chaos. These senescent people, they're just creating a lot of noise out here. So, with that being said, what should skeptical consumers, believe versus ignore in the longevity space, right? There's a lot of noise in this space. What do I do? What do I not do? And it feels to me like the most flashiest person, and this is based on how our minds work, right? Novelty attracts you, and you kind of forget about reality at that point. You're just mesmerized by this charlatan, right? But the back of your mind, you're like, this is a bunch of BS. But you get sucked into it, and then you're doing these things and wasting your time and your life on them. So what can consumers do to separate, real from BS?
I'll
That's
answer that one. I think
good.
in longevity and wellness clinics, we took a business model to license the Lionheart Longevity and Wellness Clinics, lionheartlongevity.com. We have our own clinic in Newport Beach and in Manhattan, and we have 7 other licensed locations so far, and we're on the way to 124. And what we think is just that, is that people need a trusted space where they can go to and have somebody filter for them, a physician, a well-qualified team, to separate out what is worthless and in what is based on good science. And so what we hope is to build a brand that is trusted, a method that, and the problem with previous longevity and wellness clinics is they would be very heavy on diagnostics, partly because of the FDA. They couldn't do much, but they didn't really do anything to help the patients to live longer or be more healthy. The other problem we have is that people aren't that patient. They don't want to be told, okay, spend lots of time and lots of money, and 20, 30, 40 years from now, you're going to thank us. The people studying the field have told us we've got to provide benefit now. Your cognition is going to be better now. Your memory is going to be better now. Your joint pain is going to go away so you can take the stairs and go walk and surf and do the things you love to do. I'll save the long description, but so my answer is that I think we need trusted clinics and that really do provide therapeutics as well as diagnostics and weed out the bad. So, there's 3,000 or 4,318 papers on Klotho. Nobody has time to read those all, but we've read them all. And we can say, what is truthful and what is statistically significant. And we do that for the people that would want this. So, we hope that they come in and see Dr. Berkey. They develop a trust and rapport. She's given her life to being good science in this space. And I think that's going to change the field, is people that design organizations around good science.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I mean, I think Howard really hit the point there, is that, you know, as in the general public, you get a lot of podcasts, you get a lot of, even shorts on TikTok and whatnot, and everybody's telling you how to live longer, right? And there's a lot of noise. You're absolutely right, Junaid. But Howard, I think you really just need to find somebody, a doctor that in this field that you can trust, to help you filter out all that stuff. Now, I think there's nothing wrong with hearing it in the first place because it'll give you ideas, and there are a lot of influencers out there that are maybe doing some things that are more extreme that will give you ideas like, well, wow, why are they doing that, right? And even though their n equals one, I think it may not be a bad thing. I think a lot of n equals ones could give us some ideas on how to kind of approach different problems, right? My biggest thought is even in warfare, right? You need scouts to go out behind enemy lines to risk their lives to find out what's going on, right? So I think a lot of these guys are like that, and they're willing to risk their lives to do a lot of crazy things to tell you, hey, this is what happened to me. Now, it's not scientific, but I think it's worth at least hearing, hey, here's another data point, here's another data point. But to really get the core of the real stuff, you really need to talk to the experts. So that's what Howard was saying, and I totally agree with that.
I want to mention that GLP-1 has drugs for weight loss have become widespread use, and
Right.
We really think that most of those people would have been better off going into the clinic under physician supervision than ordering online from HIMSS or online sourcing. It can be dangerous when you're, a consumer on your own without any guidance. And, those people need to have a high protein diet. They need to exercise. They need to
Yep.
take measures. They could hurt themselves with muscle loss being a bigger problem than the weight loss. And, that's why we decided to take this model to license, certified, train, and support clinics and spread information to those clinics. Those doctors also have limited time, and we want them to feel that being a licensee of us, we're going to curate the good from the bad. They of course have the freedom to have their own opinion, but we really believe in this clinic model. Now there is a place for consumer products and light things that you can get at home, and we're also going to head in that direction. But the serious stuff, we think they should go into a clinic and it should be physician supervised.
Agreed.
Interesting. So,
Agreed.
this new current paradigm where we're pretty much getting rid of experts and everybody's kind of like do your own research, I think the equation of garbage in, garbage out never changes, irregardless. And so
Yep.
you got to be very careful, even if you're doing your own research, where that
That's right.
research is coming from, right? Like,
Yeah.
I don't think any kind of alchemy can change that equation. But
Right.
so moving on to the next question, you're 40 years old and you're like, yeah, this is great. This is fantastic. But why should I care about all this health span stuff? I mean, this kind of goes back to long-term thinking, which I
Right.
think, a lot of people don't really care about until they're in that position where they have to care. But I think when you get to that position, a lot of people are so busted up. It doesn't matter what we do. It's not going to work. Right. So this takes a little bit of a long-term type of thinking. Going to the gym and these type of things are long-term. Right. But that if I do this, I'm going to get to this. But number one, you have to have the patience and the persistence. So what would you tell somebody who's 40? Hey, listen, this stuff really matters because it's going to benefit you. Well, it's going to benefit you sooner than it is the folks now. So how do you convince somebody that this stuff matters?
I actually think it just has to be over time, right? I mean, just think about why we brush our teeth every day, right? When you don't brush your teeth for one day, your teeth don't fall out, right? But over time, historically, we know that if you don't brush your teeth every day, that you're going to have really rotten teeth probably within 10, 15 years from now. And having that historical context pushes everybody to make it into a habit of yours, including taking a shower and doing other things like now working out as being a big part of it. And so I think prevention in for longevity, for health span, is going to become just like brushing your teeth. Right. I think we're going to get to a day probably within the next 10, 15 years when you have enough evidence to say, oh my God, if I don't do this now, in 20 years, in 30 years, that's going to happen to me. And it will become so apparent, so realistic that you would be pushed to do that now. Right. And so this is what we're trying to do, is that I've always thought that the FDA, currently designed for sick care, should have a prevention section, right? Can you imagine if a lot of these companies that are working on longevity and health span can go to the FDA and get approved for something that is, based on real science to say, now you could take this supplement and it actually has some, scientific benefits, right? And then everybody can now understand it and everybody can now trust it, right? That's the issue. And then it will probably remove a lot of the snake oil guys from the system. But unfortunately, the FDA currently only has sick care. So you can only do something when you're sick. For us, we're always thinking, imagine now if we use these early exosomes and based on the heterochronic parabiosis that you can literally either slow down, stop, or reverse biological aging. And then imagine if you're 30 years old or 40 years old and you start injecting these exosomes the right dosage at the right frequency, that in 100 years, when you're 100 years old, you still have internal organs of a 30-year-old, right? But if we can prove that point, I think everybody be doing it today, right? Except we don't have that data right now. So this is what we're trying to work to. We have to work on, hey, what biological clocks you want to use are actually accurate, et cetera, et cetera. So there are many issues to address, but I believe that that's where longevity is going. It really lives in prevention, and it lives with the regulatory agencies coming up with a really safe section for prevention, as an addendum to the current sick care that we have.
It's a challenge to fight that battle. One of the things that we see that's quite important, and we talked a moment about longevity and wellness clinics. Skin is a gateway to aging. Hair is a gateway to aging, and we recently, my 60-some-year-old friend ran into another friend of his, and here he's my friend, and I've been telling him about longevity and wellness clinics. But what convinced him is he ran into a friend that from high school, also his age, 63, and that person looked 38. And he said, Joe, what are you doing? You look so good. He said, well, I'm going to this longevity and wellness clinic, and they also treat my face with a whole bunch of things and homing stem cells to my face. And his hair was thick, and he's like, I want to go to a clinic now. And it's kind of funny that you work on the inside, making their, one of the properties of Klotho is to reduce calcification, but you can't see that unless you go to an MRI scan. But you can see the skin. So I think a driving force is going to be, seeing people around you that are taking earlier action and having it show up in a very visual way. And that's going to drive, more people to participate early. And, Mark Hyman's been publishing that repeatedly this last week. He said the Alzheimer's that you have at 70 started with your decisions at 40, exactly what you were talking about, Junaid. And, the good news is that the new generation seems to be going in that direction. It's kind of amazing. Alcohol consumption is down 54% compared to my generation. I just saw that one of the most popular bars, or I don't even know if you can call it a bar anymore, but they only serve healthy drinks, and the young people are gathering and they don't serve alcohol. And yet they're having their party. They're doing the same things that we did in our generation, but they see it, and they see the difference between people that they see in front of them that have embraced their health and have actively engaged in it, and those that have not. And then there's the movie stars. I'm admire Formula One. I just downloaded it, and Brad Pitt looks pretty darn good for 63 years old. And people think like I want to be like that. I don't want to look like my grandfather did at 63 with a crooked back and sore knees. And knees are another gateway. It's absolutely proven now that if you have your first knee pain and you start taking action, in our case, bioelectric stimulation for Klotho, which prevents knee osteoarthritis, it's so much better to act early. If you wait till you're bone on bone and your cartilage is gone and your meniscus is gone, and then, as you said, Junaid, you try to late gap jump in to try to save it, it's way harder. And you're either intelligent and believe in that science that's beginning to be more and more proven that early action, and why wouldn't you want to prevent knee pain? It makes your life terrible that you can't go up the stairs. I hear so many people, I used to walk, I used to surf, I used to ski, but then my knees hurt so bad that I couldn't do it anymore. I used to golf. And as soon as you hear that, that's the downward spiral that leads to early death and pain. And if people aren't scared about that, and if they don't pay attention to the data, but that's up to us as the people in the industry who have to get that word out. First knee pain, take action. If you don't, you're heading towards something you're not going to like. Sorry if I'm a little bit too passionate
No,
about
no,
No,
that.
that's
absolutely.
excellent.
Loving
Excellent.
the
And
passion. Loving the
yep.
passion there. Yeah.
And
So two closing questions, and then Melissa, we'll close it up. Right. So Howard, you touched on this, right? And I agree with you there, right? But I'm gonna go ahead and ask this question anyway. So what breakthrough, all right, what breakthrough would convince most doctors and folks that aging is treatable or age-related diseases are treatable? What would be that breakthrough for you? And like you said, something on the skin, and I'm a firm believer, I think it's a Trojan horse to everything else. If you can do that, and I think most women will be convinced right there. There's your first customer. Melissa's already lining up. She goes, "What is this thing?" All right, go ahead. So any you guys take this one. So what's that breakthrough that we're looking for to sit? Everybody says, "Hey, you know what? This is doable."
I know what mine is, right? So mine was Shinya Yamanaka and the reprogramming, the OSKM, right? Um, to me, before that point, I think trying to live forever or at least live longer was always kind of very sci-fi. And I think that when Shinya Yamanaka, published on the iPSCs, induced pluripotent stem cells, were used four transcription factors in a virus to take an adult cell all the way back to stem cell state. That to me was absolute proof there. Because if you can reprogram one cell all the way back to stem cell state, that means it's now possible to reprogram every cell in your body to do that. Right. And so trying to get our cells to go back to, say, 24 again, that's just an engineering problem. And so we just need to solve that, bit by bit. But now the possibility is real. So that was for me one of the big points about longevity. It was like, let's go, let's do this.
Junaid,
Howard, do you have any ideas?
well, of course, we're working on a lot of things in that direction, and depends on how you answer the question. But for us, and I wanted a chance to plug this, uh, our flagship product is developing a whole body regeneration chamber, a womb for adults.
Mm,
And if we had our way, and if it wasn't for the impatience of investors and there wasn't a money equation, we would just do that. And I believe more than anything else that that is the future, that all 30 years from now, it will be nearly unthinkable to not enter a regeneration chamber when you're in your 60s or 70s. It will be everybody, and it will be democratized, and it will be much lower cost than what's going on now. And in that whole body regeneration chamber, there will be pods that will be filled with Dr. Lee's cells, Klotho expressing stem cells, Wharton's jelly, amniotic fluid, placenta, and AI will diagnose where you need the help the most. Advanced robotics will deliver a catheter and a stimulation lead to your liver, your pancreas, your kidneys, wherever it's needed, your heart. And that pod regeneration chamber will refill implantable pumps. The robotics will implant the pump, fill it with the nutrient hydrogel, amniotic fluid, Wharton's jelly, Klotho expressing stem cells that will time the delivery to the organ that needs to be regenerated. So you'll go in the chamber, get all this put in, you'll walk away. But when you walk away, you have 3 or 4 pumps in your body that are filled with nutrient hydrogel and special stem cells for regeneration. And it will slowly regenerate your organs. Then you'll go back to the chamber and get refilled up, or you'll take syringes home and just poke yourself through the skin and refill those pumps, infusion pumps, with and this isn't science fiction. We're doing this now. So we're doing animals right now at the California Medical Innovations Institute, Aculab Life Sciences. We put a pump under the skin. We put a pacemaker under the skin. We put 2 leads on each side of the scarred heart that we created a heart attack and hurt the animal's heart. And we recruit stem cells with homing signals. We release Klotho. We release a whole bunch of other muscle building proteins. We release angiogenic proteins that grow blood vessels. And then we, every single day, poke through the skin of that animal and through the silicone septum, refill that infusion pump with a catheter going to the damaged part of the heart with Klotho expressing stem cells suspended in a nutrient hydrogel, an egg yolk. And it is working to regenerate those hearts. And before that, we spent $115 million and did pilot phase 1, phase 2, phase 3 clinical trials with the FDA approval or permission. 52 centers, included Mayo Clinic and Cleveland Clinic. And in that study, we just took muscle stem cells or immature myoblasts derived from skeletal muscle that were cultured in the lab and injected it one time in a scar tissue. In that study, we had 84% of the patients treated with the cells had improvement of their heart failure, and only 16% worsened. In the placebo group, where we did the same thing but injected placebo, over 60% worsened. So 16% worsening to 60%, but we did not go to market with that. We learned in the lab that by adding nutrient hydrogel and doing repeat injections, it was dramatically better than one-time injection. So we decided to go all the way back to the beginning, and after doing 3 phases of clinical trials and $115 million, and do what we think is going to be spectacularly better, and be patient about bringing it to market.
So last question, then Melissa, you can wrap it up. And this is like a North Star question, and it touches back to where we started. And I'll let you both answer it. So will we all be healthier in 2035 because of what you're doing today?
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Hands down. I think
Yep.
we'll probably get there before then, right, Howard?
I hope so.
Sounds like it. Howard said 30
We
years,
will.
so let's speed it up a little bit. But yeah, based on what I've heard today, Junaid, I definitely feel confident about that.
I
Yeah,
was
we
being very, very conservative when I said
yeah,
2035. I actually mean a lot
yeah.
earlier than that. I'm just trying to be realistic here, but I'm an optimist.
So am I. So am I. I really do believe in the idea that probably in 12 to 15 years we will reach longevity escape velocity. And that's going to be a pretty interesting moment, right? So we are going to live a
Yep,
very, very, very long time. So
yep,
let's get
yep.
used to it.
I like it, and I know Aubrey de Grey, who
Yeah,
coined that term and taught us all about that concept, would be heartened to hear you say that. So thank
of
you.
course.
I really, I am again feel so excited about this group getting together and getting to meet each other and talk, and I think these conversations will continue. And like you said, Utah, when you see Howard at a conference next time, you go up and give him a big hug. Um,
Absolutely.
Junaid and I will be looking to be your customers, both of you. And the Healthspan Action Coalition couldn't be more thrilled to have each of you as a member, and each of you, your organizations as members, and each of you as individuals, as partners with us and with Junaid in this effort to do what we've been talking about, which is move policy that is more favorable to getting these ideas developed fully and through the process of being able to be productized and brought to market and getting them to the world, and also to really democratizing who can benefit from all this incredible work that both of you are doing. So thank you for your work. Thank you for being here with us. And thank you for being members of the Healthspan Action Coalition.
Thank you
Thank you
very
very
much.
much. You guys do incredible work.
And
Thank
let us
you.
know how we can help
Thank
with
you.
policy work. We believe in what you're doing, and we need the field needs the work that you're doing, Melissa, and want to help. I was part of the Jobs
Absolutely.
Act. We took BioHeart public, the stem cell company for the heart, at a $76 million valuation. We raised 7.5 million, but it cost us 4.3 million of red tape to do
Yep.
the public offering. So then we only had 3 million left to do the rest of the clinical trials, which was not what the investors
Not
did.
enough.
It was not good for the company or for science or health. And I started complaining about that. And I ended up in Washington telling my sob story. And holy cow, we made a change. The Jobs Act passed
Excellent.
with greatly reducing the red tape and cost to go public, test the waters provision to allow you to test the waters before you go into the high cost part. I'll save you the crowdfunding became part of that. And
Yep.
I realized, like, wow, you actually can change bad things if you have people like you that work. And I don't in any way want to take credit for the Jobs Act. We ran into people like you, and they just invited me up to tell my sad story about the biotech that had too much red tape money. But it was a large group of people working together with a common goal, and it can be done.
Yep, and you were an essential part of that, and we're happy to have you on the team and Utah on the team to work on these things. So again, Thank you all, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you.